And we're back.
All right. Good we have everybody. Okay, we still have everyone here? Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Good morning to all. It is currently 4:40 a.m. for
morning.
me over in Phoenix, Arizona, and quite last minute, as this is also abruptly the premiere weekend for this band's debut EP, Duyvelsziele, which, fun fact, right off the bat, right out the gate, that is Old Dutch translation for Devil's Soul. This is the Anatomy Crosscast. I am your host, Sean Cross, and welcome to the world's only overnight, early as fuck, early morning metal counterculture, true counterculture podcast. I am your host, Sean Cross. Welcome to the experience. And this morning, after literally 4 years of doing this show, starting with our networking in the Netherlands with Distant, with Elmer and Isa, who hasn't been in the band for a long time, but that's okay. And hopefully we can get them back on at some point in the near future, as they have released plenty of music since then. And I would love to talk with Alan, for he also does Almanac Designs, which is responsible for a wide variety of different logo design. He's also a photographer. He does a lot of stuff when he's not doing vocals for Distant. Well, this morning our session is for a new and rising Blackened Deathcore or Ignite the Church band based in the Netherlands. That being, I do believe, because the Anatomy Crosscast is known for labeling its episodes with Roman numerals, 12 horns?
Yes, 12.
Correct. 12.
Yeah!
12 thorns.
There we go. There we go. I was like, oh man, I really hope I don't fuck that up. But we are talking with 3 members of 12 Horns this morning, rather last minute. And I do appreciate you gentlemen for wanting to be a part of this show the way that you seem to have been, the way that we both improvised a lot of shit to get where we are this morning. It is much appreciated. This morning, like I said, our intention, just like we do every session on the Anatomy Crosscast, is to make music history, telling the story of the members of this band that we have in session for the first date. So not only are we doing a one-on-one for our first date session, but we have 3 members out of 4, 5?
5 in total, yeah.
There we go. And therefore, hopefully the second date session sometime in the near future, maybe even sometime next year, as they just released this EP. So no pressure. We're not immediately going to go into what are you guys cooking up next? We're not going to worry about that for now. That'll be for the end of the first date session, end of the first date conversation. Both that, and I haven't exactly brought the chocolate and flowers yet, or have taken these guys out to dinner, taken 12 Horns out to dinner just yet. So we are going to take it nice and slow. We're not rushing this date. But welcome, gentlemen. How are we all doing?
All good again. Thank you for the early hour, Sean. So appreciate it, and of course, thank you that we can be part of this podcast. Right, so really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The more sessions, the more overwhelming numbers I think that we have, which has been my mindset recently, then in reference that I've quoted last night as far as like my newest YouTube uploads that I hope to get out. Well, let's just say we have 30 other bands that we hope to do sessions with for the remainder of this year, on top of getting our podcast, getting the Anatomy Crosscast, which I do believe we're only up to episode 55 in the re-uploading process after I did a big old screw up and decided to delete my Spotify account, which then deleted the original feed of the original 101 episodes, including some 4.5 hour podcast sessions. Well, let's just say I felt really foolish I felt like a big fool after deleting my Spotify account, wanting to get off of the Spotify platform because of its more toxic CEO and like his philosophies as far as paid subscriptions. And I think even racking up the monthly subscription for Spotify for quality, or even making it to where only Spotify artists with only 100,000 monthly followers and more could possibly be making money off of their streams. Well, let's just say I wanted to jump off the platform, migrate to Apple Music or something, find a healthier, more ethically clean alternative means and streaming platform. But unfortunately, the consequence of that was the moment I found out too late that the Spotify for Creators account that I had tethered to my personal account of many years would wipe the show. That's not happening again. I just won't be doing Spotify Premium this time. So, like I said, we are interviewing 12 Thorns this morning. And of course, any Blackened Deathcore, or as Derek Connolly of Nithful has coined the term, and I think there's a ring to it, ignite the church music, ignite the church culture, because this then, in my opinion, alludes to black metal bands, but in the modern day, with a little less controversy, but still plenty of spooky vibes, choir, sometimes string and orchestra, but still the black metal influence of just the bleak and dismal breakdowns, the chugs, the breaks that the breakdowns in the songs that really make you want to get an exorcist, and you might as well be flying around like as if you're possessed by a demon. Well, that's ignite the church culture to us, and to be honest, I'm hoping that maybe going into 2026, ignite the church is embraced as a coined term for this unholy true counterculture culture or subgenre, So we get into the Anatomy Crosscast without wasting too much more time, and again, trying not to draw out the intro so much. I swear I'm going to need to compact that a lot more, and possibly even quote fans in the future instead of trying to improvise something on my own. We have 3 out of 5 members of 12 Horns this morning, in the afternoon for them. What time is it for you guys right now?
It's almost 1:47 p.m.
Okay, so it's the afternoon for them. There you go. Not too late, not too early for them. That's good. So, as we get into the people part of the podcast, as per the tradition of the first, I think, 40 to 50 sessions, really, whoever wants to go first, let's go ahead and get associated with you guys by name. Let's go ahead and learn your names and what you guys do for the band.
Yeah, I can go first. I'm Roul Bosma. I play guitar in 12 Thorns, so that's me.
All right.
I'm Lewis. I do vocals in 12 Thorns.
Okay.
And I'm Erick. I'm playing drums, and I'm the financial director of the band as well.
Yeah, anything we want to buy, we need to run by Erick first. Right?
Yes.
I
mean, requests run by me.
Honestly, sometimes you need that subconscious, right? When it comes to directing all the financial resources, do we need another 150 to 250 USD costed logo or some shit, or should we just make it ourselves? Shit like that. That can be very, very important in keeping a band alive. And like I quoted it just now in reference to the Anatomy Crosscast and figuring out the anatomy of 12 Horns, that truly is a subconscious. You need to use your instincts and your intuition to make these decisions. That way 12 Thorns can continue to thrive and survive in this massive world, I would dare say oversaturated world, with millions and millions of bands. Nothing wrong with that. It just makes it to where the food chain is almost infinite, right? With all the subgenres, maybe AI bands versus actual bands. The food chain has grown exponentially, and it's hard to decipher where you fit in it sometimes when it comes to the music industry, let alone the counterculture music industry, but I digress. So, we got Lewis, we got Erick, and do forgive me, I wasn't able to pinpoint your name. I think there was a lot of Dutch in there.
Yeah, I have a very difficult name, I think, for US outside of the Netherlands. So it's Roul. Its most close pronunciation is like the rules in a book. Like if you think about a rule in a book, like that's how you would pronounce it. And then we do something strange with our R's, right? So we do Roul, like a hard rolling. Yeah, but I don't. Like, yes. Yeah.
He says, I don't make the rules. I am the rules. That's awesome. Okay, so we got Rules, we got Lewis, and we got Eric. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Again, thank you for jumping on. Let's go ahead and jump right into the more intricate, right, commentary. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead and basically give us a brief summary of how you got into music, how you got into your role, and we'll go from there.
All right, give it a start. So if I go back to what got me into music, right? So if I kind of look back at where it all started, of course, I think as for many, kind of the parents and the music that they were listening to. So they were huge fans of the Rolling Stones, for example. So that was always being played at home, records. And my dad is a huge hi-fi geek, so he has like the stereo set and the speakers. So there was always music on, and he's like into Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Rolling Stones. So that got me into it, and I was a huge fan of Keith Richards when I was young. So that kind of got me into guitar playing, and as of then it just escalated, right? So as it usually goes, so it goes from the Rolling Stones to the Red Hot Chili Peppers to, I don't know, Nirvana, Korn, Slipknot at some point, right? And then it goes into Nile, D-side, and the death metal part. So that got me into music, and then always being fascinated by guitar. I would say I entered the music genre, or let's say the music world and the band world a little bit late. I think I was 17, 18 when I started playing in bands. Before that I was just, me in my bedroom just jamming out to CDs. So, but yeah, that's it. And the other thing, what I really like and what I contribute to the band is kind of the, at least recording part of what we do. So the songwriting, writing in the studio. I did some of the early mixing for the band, but now we, of course, outsource it because it needs to, hit a certain quality level. But that's the other thing that I'm still very passionate about, kind of the recording and production side of the band. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Rules. Lewis?
So yeah, same thing with the parents. Like my father was a huge Rolling Stones fan, AC/DC, Queen, Cheap Trick, all that 80s stuff. So of course, you get influenced by it. And eventually he bought me a CD of Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, somewhere in 2000. And I immediately got hooked on the new metal scene. So Limp Bizkit, I heard that Mark died yesterday, the bassist of, okay. But I digress. So yeah, that, I listened to that. Slipknot. Just when I heard that the first time, I was like, holy shit, can you do that? And eventually, the Suicide Silence, Whitechapel, early deathcore scene erupted. So I got influenced by that. Same thing with the vocal style of Phil Bozeman, which is one of the bigger inspirations. You'll probably hear it when you listen to my vocals. I finally figured out how to do a scream like that, and well, now we're here.
I love it. Eric?
So for me, it started when I was around 7 years old. My father always wanted to play drums, but it never happened at that time. And suddenly I received some drumsticks, and I started playing drums together with my father. We are always, every week, we went to drum lessons and so on and so on. But it was all like basic stuff. And at one time, I think I was around like 13, 14 years old. A friend of mine came to me and he said, did you ever listen to like metal music or something? I said, I don't know, but I'm thinking about playing double bass, And he was like, okay, I give you this album of Fear Factory, Digimortal, and what do I need to say more? I mean, this is all about double bass, all about metal drumming, all about this kind of things, and that evaluated actually into everything related to metal, playing in bands, But actually, it started with going to the birthday of the same friend. who gave me the album. The other guys know him actually, is Marlon. He gave me the record. And there was a guy at the party, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm playing in a band, but we are looking for a bass player, you know." And I was experimenting with playing guitars and playing bass guitar and normal guitar. And I'm like, "Okay, I want to play in a band. Can I play bass guitar in your band?" But I'm just playing a little bit basic scales. He's like, "Okay, you can come to us." And I was actually the bass player, and at one time he called me and he's like, "You know, our drummer, he broke his hand. Are you, can you fill in for him to a rehearsal?" I said, "Okay, I can do that." I played like 30 seconds and he quit playing, and he's like, "You're the new drummer of the band," you know? And that was actually the start of my drumming career. Playing drums in bands, a lot of bands, multiple bands at the same time, you know, rehearsing 3 times a week, playing everywhere around, actually. That's how it started.
Wonderful. That's awesome. So for Roul's, we got a background, that musical background really, that went from the Rolling Stones to Deicide, which is an interesting shift really when you look back on it.
Yeah.
We have Lewis, who got into vocals, witnessed the MySpace era unfold, and thought to tether most of his vocal prowess to that of one of my favorite vocalists, that being Phil Bozeman of Whitechapel. And then we have Erick, who at one point actually did bass, but then ultimately went to drums and has been blast beating away, giving them gravity blasts in there, really just honing in what a gravity blast is, and therefore here we are. It's an awesome start, gentlemen. Thank you so much for providing brief summary backgrounds, if you will, back of the book summary backgrounds. So I guess we'll go in that same order really, because we, I think, have a good amount to talk about, right? Whether it be prior projects or one of my favorite things to figure out too, musician by musician, band by band, then collectively, is maybe at some point, you know, there might have been other avenues that you were pursuing, or, you know, these could be the financial backbones of what you do today, right? Especially with Erick in mind being the financial subconscious of this band, right? It's always important to have a grounded sense of realism when you are in a band. So maybe there are alternate solutions, right, outside of the band. That way you can kind of like separate yourself from the art every now and then, and you know, have a real life to focus on. Lewis, you know, he has a family, he has children, but we're not going to go anywhere beyond that because that is very personal information, and that's his business. But I think you guys understand what I mean. When it comes to being a musician, like, you have to have a half of yourself that isn't a musician and see where you can go outside of being a musician. Now, of course, this is a podcast interviewing bands, right? But I always try to put in perspective and encourage a sense of balance for people. So if you guys could take as much time with this as you want, really, explaining this, what do you think has been that other half for you in life whilst being in this band? Rules, go first.
Yeah, so I would say for us as a band, like, we're not a full-time band, right, first of all. So we all have, you know, families, jobs, and we do this to, I think, the best of our ability in the time that we have, right, to make this work. So, and that balance is super important. But I would say it's the other way around, right? I would say there's this whole kind of work life and family life that I also have, right? That is my financial backbone to everything I do as well, and allows me as well to do this with the band, right? So it's where I think sometimes the balance is different. Like, someone is a musician first, right, and then needs to figure out a way, how do I make the rest of my life work? So how do I don't know, get by? Can I have a family even, right? Do I even have the funds for a car, especially in our genre, right? So it's not a well-paid genre. For me, it's the other way around. So the fact that I have that kind of professional life and career and my family is for me a huge enabler to then kind of do this to the full of my ability, right? Without any concerns connected to it or any, I'd say that, higher expectations of it, right? Because the basics are covered, so I can do the creative part fully and without kind of distractions of, okay, I need to make this work financially, or I need to make choices, right, to, I don't know, get a higher, fee in because we need to pay ourselves out, right? So that's all not a factor. So for me, that's an enabler. But I do need both in life, to your question, Sean, right? So for me, it's if I don't have the band, I just have my professional career, I'm missing a huge piece of the puzzle in my life. And I think I had that during COVID. There was this time in between, like we were in a band and it stopped, and then this band is born in COVID, right? So in the COVID period. But there was a short period where there were no shows. We didn't have a clear band formed, right? So no rehearsals. I wasn't kind of searching, okay, what do we do as a next step? And that was a huge miss in my life, right? So I need this kind of creative outlet. I need this band. I need, something aside from the, let's say, regular, 9-to-5 jobs that we have as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And then for you, Roul's, then you ended up taking the lifer approach when it came to making music, because not only did you maybe not want this to, I wouldn't even say that. You wanted this to become your everything, and there's a lot of musicians out there who do that. They want to take the most professional and business-friendly approach as possible, whilst also not selling the soul, per se, of the creative process, of the creative authenticity that goes into what you do. So I guess what would be a good counter question for you, Rules, would be like, how do you, what's your interpretation, what's your take and perspective on people, therefore, in that original prompt, right, who maybe have music as their outlet and their recreational thing, but have this other life, this other half of their life where maybe they're still working that 9-to-5. Like, how is that been interpreted for you? Is that has that always been a strange thing for you to consider when it comes to thinking about other musicians around the world, or?
Oh no, not at all. And I think so. For me, that's my life as well. Right? So I've thought about it at some point, right? I think everyone does once they pick up a instrument. Think, can I do this full time? And you kind of dream about doing this, like world tour stuff. But I remember there's a few moments in my let's say musical career when I saw, let's say, one of the biggest bands that I was like, oh, these guys are huge, right? And we had the opportunity to open on a festival for them, and I think it was back then Die Artist Murder. So in my world, that was like the biggest band ever. Louis, you remember this because it was on Jeremy and Erick as well. So we won a competition with our previous band. We opened the stage on a festival, and Die Artist Murder was kind of headlining at some point as well. And they arrived in their van. And that was the moment then I thought, well, okay, these guys are touring the world. They are super famous in the deathcore genre. But if you look at how they tour, it was like a shitty old van, and they kind of roll out of it. And that's the life. That's the sacrifice that those people make. And I respect that enormously. It's such a hard commitment to make, right? Because everything you put aside, you just go for that band. But you also struggle, right? The grind is real, I think. And for me, it was like, if I look at what I want to achieve in life, that's not something I can do next. So I need to do it differently, which is I accept my kind of 9-to-5 life, but that enables me to do other stuff. I can have a family, do the whole kind of, traditional thing. And then I focus on music just for the creativity, and I can do whatever I want in that as well, and don't have to worry about kind of the financial commitments, that you might miss in that form. So no, I would say, and for more bands that do that, I think it's also the reality, right? So I think the music scene is getting to a space where you don't get paid. You commented on Spotify streams, right, in the beginning, Sean. It's real, right? So you can have 10,000 of plays on a song. It translates to $50, right? So there's very little money to be made. So it needs to come from shows, and also the shows are becoming more challenging, right? They're becoming more expensive for the participants, the visitors, right? So also there's not a lot of financial opportunities there, and if you then have to pay out yourself as well, that becomes a struggle. And there are bands that of course achieve that, but I think it's the kind of 1-5% of the population that gets there, right? So.
Absolutely. All right, Lewis, you go next. Same question regarding
Yeah, I have
how
to.
you balance
Yeah,
everything out.
I have to. Like I agree with what Roul is saying, especially with your career. Like everyone in the band, even Eric, we're all in the same situation that we have a 9 to 5 job. Some of us have like big careers, but yeah, we're not a full-time band, but the marketing trick about it is that we want to make sure that when people look at us, when they go to a show, when they listen to the music, when they want to buy merch, look things up, that it doesn't look like we're not a full-time band. So that's also the other part of me being a musician, but I'm also in a marketing communication. I have a marketing communication job. We also do graphic design, which we use in the band.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about getting new designs and paying for it because we can do it all ourselves. So yeah, that's the things that make it easy for me to be in a band, because the things that I do in the band, except for vocals, of course, but doing the designs, thinking about marketing strategics, it's something that I do in my 9 to 5 job. So yeah, that's easy. But the thing what Roul says with the Die Artist Murder van, I saw that too. I saw how hammered they were when they got out of their van and they were playing soccer. But they immediately got back into their van because they were so tired. And I was like, shit, is this really the thing that you have to do? Like, you have to commit to doing a world tour like that? Like, it's not. I'm not saying that we're never going to do a world tour, but it's not something that we. How do I say that? Say this. Try to. But it's not up there with the thing that we want to do. We really want to make and release cool music and do every show that we can. But yeah, it's not up there with the things that we must do.
Right. So I mean,
So, and I think what you're commenting as well, Louis, we don't compromise on the quality, right? So it's like we still want to deliver, let's say, a music that kind of can compete on that level, do shows that can compete on that level when it comes to also how we, do the live experience with, theatrics and, really making sure that it's not just a show with, 5 guys in a band shirt. And that's also okay, right, for bands that do that, don't get me wrong, but we want to kind of deliver that full-blown live experience. So we don't compromise on that, but we do restrict our time, of course, and how we want to make that work. So we need to be very efficient as a band, even, right, to achieve that stuff. So.
absolutely. And therefore, Louis, I think the word you're looking for is, let's see, to be coming immediately, like right out the gate with your first EP now out. Your priority is not to immediately become a world touring band, because there's a lot more that goes into it other than just an EP. Like, let's be real, whether it be attention span or the ambition, the financial resources that go into it, which that's where the subconscious Mr. Erick comes in, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into becoming a band like Whitechapel or Die Artist Murder, or now climbing the ranks, right? We got Signs of the Swarm, we got Lorna Shore. They're becoming big dogs in the scene now on the world stage, let alone the US stage. So there's a lot more steps that goes into having the ability and having the platform then to go around the world and quite literally I try not to make it sound like a bad thing, but the term would be no-lifing it, right? Like, this is your 24/7, this is what you do all the time, 24/7, 365, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what time zone you're jumping to, no matter where you might be flying to next, because the demand is there, right? But I mean, you also got bands like Infant Annihilator who have yet to play a live show, ever. And they have, I would dare say, an equal amount of demand compared to those other bands. But they also want to make sure that when they do make their live debut, and I quote this from Dickie Allen, most likely they'll be making a live debut with their next 20-track album that they've been cooking up since 2019, since the Battle of Yavbedoth. Like, there's a lot that goes into that stuff, but the thing is, I think they're still at that precipice, they're still at that cusp of making sure that there's more than enough demand. That way, maybe they happen to be one of those bands that when they do go to certain countries around the world, they're not like, you know, basically slopping out of their touring van that they happen to rent last minute in one country or the other. And, you know, of course, Thy Art Is Murder, in that scenario that you guys quoted, they came out and they were like playing soccer just to kind of get it out of their system and get ready for the day, and just like have something on the side that they're doing, just an activity, a hobby that then connects them. And when I think of that, then I also jump into, as goofy as it sounds, movies like Top Gun Maverick. And I mention that only because it's a movie about fighter jet pilots, right? And military fighter jet pilots, the best of the best. But then you have the scene where they're all on the beach and they're playing football, and that's a means to connect them as a team, but in a different way, right? It's not just them flying in fighter jets, because like you have your mission, right? You have the goal, your main thing that you're trying to do, but also you want to see how well you can all connect in different mediums, in blatantly different ways and forms. The more that you can work together and the more that you can perfect that main idea of band, teamwork, brotherhood, the more that you can perfect that, the better off you're going to be. So easily, when it comes to all of that, I'm understanding, Lewis, and for all of you guys, that right out the gate, you're not focusing on becoming a world touring band, because there's a lot of steps you need to take to get there, and you don't want to rush the process, compromise the authenticity of the creation that you're doing, but also still make it the best quality that you can. And I think that's a really, really good goal when it comes to starting a band, let alone starting a band in a still booming genre here in the 2020s, I would argue, kickstarting in 2019 with records like Melancholy by Shadow of Intent, Luciferus by Enterprise Earth, Sheol by Shrine of Malice, Immortal by Lorna Shore during the C.J. McCreary era. It's a boom. It really is a booming genre because it responds historically and it pays tribute to the most extravagant and unholy subgenres of counterculture, that being black metal, before it was controversial, before it was not something to be commercialized, not really. But now there's something different about it. There's something professional about it. You can look like a pasture and be screaming like doing all these goblin noises, and you can actually make a living off of that, potentially. But, like I said, you have to get to that world touring level, unfortunately, to get to that point of making it your life and have it be something that's not overwhelming or something that you are like drawing at sticks for, I guess. And there's a better analogy for that. But, yeah, I understand you guys' take. Erick, same question. This is just regarding the balance, right? This is just like your take on that to get your personal opinion on it. What commentary do you have to offer regarding the balance between creative stuff and maybe financial backbone, especially being the financial subconscious of this band?
Well, for me it is keep the passion actually. And we always when you are young, you have dreams, and we always dreamed about being the touring band. But the older we get, my career became more important. Actually, the last 15 years, my career became more important than being a worldwide touring band, actually. And well, the funny part is actually Roul and I, we know each other actually pretty long, and we have a pretty similar track record in education, actually, because we started with, how do you say, middle school, college?
I think high school, something. College.
High school, yeah, we did high school together.
Yeah.
and we didn't see us for a few years, and we were doing the same degree in industrial management actually, and this is how things started, and we were always interested in each other's businesses, the work what we do and the careers what we do and the ambition what we have. And this is in line with the ambition what we have as a band, and what our goal is how far can we come with the limited amount of time that we have. So we have a really busy busy jobs, you know, and how far can we come with this band with a limited amount of time every week what we have.
Fair enough.
And and I think if we ever can do a world tour, I'm sure we will do it. But we will never have the ambition to make our day-to-day work of it.
Right.
No, and that's for me is okay. I keep the passion. You know, if it becomes your daily work, there is a possibility that your dream becomes a nightmare, and that you will lose your passion of your instrument, because you have to perform, you have to write new albums. This need to be a success. We don't have this pressure, and we do everything for the passion what we have, and the love for our instrument, and the love for our band, and our friendship. Actually, that is really important.
Absolutely.
And I think our dream now is, band-wise, is to stick together. You know, that is the actual dream, to keep the friendship together, to keep the band together. We don't want to swap members. You know, the ambition is to have continuity in our band for the next years, and slowly growing into how do you call, a main act band. That is the ambition, I think. Not in particular a touring band, but I think it is a headline act. That is what our ambition is, actually.
Yeah, and that's.
I wanted to add, so even though that it's kind of part-time, I think we're incredibly ambitious on what we want to achieve, right? So there's no trade-off there whatsoever. We dream big. I think we have high goals. We add our, you know, lens of reality into it with time restrictions and limits. But, you know, as Erick mentioned, right, we're ambitious in our careers. We're as well as ambitious in what we want to do with this band, right? But I just wanted to add, I think,
Right,
right,
definitely.
Yeah, it definitely seems that, you know, it's not in definition or in those exact words that you guys don't plan to become one of those bigger bands. You just understand that there are a lot of steps you need to take to get there, and so you're not like Lewis said, it's not the priority right now, because there's no need to prioritize something that is so far out of reach for now that like it might cause you guys stress, and it might, like Erick said, turn that dream into the nightmare. When it comes to music, you know, getting onto a record label, say you guys do become that successful, maybe you want to get scooped up by Unique Leader or Metal Blade or Nuclear Blast, whoever it may be, really doesn't matter. Because all those record labels, those are some of the top dogs for counterculture music today, but still, like, there are even higher tiers. You got Bring Me the Horizon, who's currently on the same record label as AC/DC, Sleep Token, and Ariana Grande, right? And they're pretty high in the music world, and I'm pretty sure they still have some higher steps to take, or some higher tiers to get to if they so choose. There's a lot that goes into it, but more or less, it's not a matter of lack of ambition or lack of wanting to. It's just you're trying to be realistic. You guys are trying to be within your means whilst also accomplishing as much as you can with this project, and that's, I think, very, very admirable. So then moving on from that premise of balancing music, balancing passion and realism, if you will, I think the next thing I wanted to ask each of you is how you ended up getting into the band.
Maybe I can give this a start with this band. Like, so I think you're asking about 12 Thorns specifically, right? So I think the funny thing is, and Erick already mentioned it, right? So I know Erick for years, like same college, and we kind of met again. So I think we've always been kind of in touch, and we knew about each other's music tastes, right? And Erick has, as you mentioned, an incredible reputation as a drummer. Played in many bands. But we also had bands before this one. So one of the acts that we were in, so Erick, myself, Louis, Davey, the bass player of our band, and then another guitar player were in Prospect. And that band ended, I think, a year before COVID hit. Kind of, the energy was out of the band and we decided to stop. We had a small side project right before COVID kicked in, which was more rock oriented, which Erick and myself were also in. But then we decided during COVID that this is not our thing. Like, we're metal musicians. If we try to start, playing rock music, that feels like we're doing everything on, I don't know, level 2 instead of 10. Like, we continuously had to hold back. So that kind of stopped, and that was this moment that I was quoting where we didn't really have a band. But then Erick and myself, I think, started chatting on, let's do what we're good at, right? Let's do the thing that we're super passionate about, which is extreme music. Like, each time if we are in a room together, the first thing that we play, if we just jam, it's usually some form of, deathcore, blast beats, fast stuff, extreme breakdowns. And it felt like in the bands that we played in, whether it was the rock band or Prospect even, which was a metalcore band, we were always holding back a little bit of that, core passion. So I think, Erick, you and me started chatting about that. Okay, let's, cut the crap. Let's just go for what we love.
I pretty good remember that moment, because we were in like a rock oriented band, and we quit it, and we tried again a little bit of the riffing and so on later on. But I was watching a show of Whitechapel, and I'm like, okay, now it's done. I'm going to Roul, and I said, this is over. We higher up the speed. The double bass is coming in right now, and we do what we are passionate about. Is we are making, metal core, metal. I don't know, and this became in the end Blackened Deathcore. But this is how it started. I remember that moment when I was at your place really well. We need to higher the speed. We need more double bass. We need more blast beats. Let's go. We're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. So, and we started kind of, demoing one track, right, with this philosophy, just turn everything up to 11, right, and do what we're good at. And then Tom, the other guitar player, who's not in the call here, right, but he joined quickly as well. So we started co-writing with the three of us, and that, really quickly got into, okay, we need to ask Louis, because he's like the best vocalist for this band, and of course a friend of the band. And then quickly we got into, okay, let's invite Davey, who has always been, let's say, in our friend groups and in previous bands. So it kind of started from that. So that's how I ended up in the band. But I think basically Erick and myself kind of started a rough idea, but really quickly became a group thing to think about, okay, what is the concept? What are we doing? How are we naming this stuff? But I think it started just with Erick and myself saying, okay, let's, start a band that we're all good at, that is 100% in our passion and, our skills sets, that we all utilize that. Yeah.
Maybe one thing to add is we played in multiple bands, all of us actually. And I don't know, I think I played in over 20 bands the last 20 years, so it's quite something. And I said, okay, there are only 2 guitar players I really want to work with, and I always come back to Roul, again with Roul, and I really needed to add Tom to that, because they are like, Roul is like really strong in riffing, and Tom is like really strong in songwriting, and the both the combination of the two, that is really strong, and I wanted to get those guys together. And we needed Louis. We just needed Louis, because he's a really remarkable vocalist. He's really professional. He has really professional tones in his throat, actually, and we needed him.
Yeah, we're saying this stuff now because Louis is away, so we're kind of giving him compliments if he's not in the call.
No, but that was the optimal combination, And we started with the 4 of us because we wanted to keep it really practical. We wanted to have everything practical because we have a 2-car policy when we go to shows, to keep it practical and financially interesting. And later on, we really want to extend in professionality. So that is when we really needed Davey with us, the bass player, to reach this next level of live performance and to reach the next level of our EP, actually, the writing process and the extra add-on with his participation, actually.
Fair enough. All right. Well, one thing, and you ended up inviting in, I think, Erick, organically, the premise of this. Usually something we love to talk about just to reflect upon you guys' legacy so far. The homework that you've done to get into the position that you are today is prior bands. And, well, let's just say if you have 20, Erick, that you've been in before, I think that invites plenty of conversation as far as like all of the creative processes, all the perspectives, what you created in the past, the work that you did truly, and how you got to this point. And of course, Roul and Lewis, if you guys have other bands that you were in prior to 12 Thorns, even predating that of the prior projects like Prospect and the rock band you guys tried to do before 12 Thorns, I think our audience would love to hear about maybe projects that still exist without you guys in them, Maybe those are bands that we can be like, hey, we heard these guys in 12 Thorns used to be in this project. We'd love to get you guys on, that sort of thing. So starting then with Roul, because Erick has plenty to talk about, right? Roul, do you have any bands that you were in prior to the efforts that you were all interconnected with before 12 Thorns?
Yeah, so I, in my career, 3 bands. First one was called XII Thorns Collide, which was a metalcore band in the August Burns Red, Texas in July days. Really also inspired by that stuff like As I Lay Dying, Parkway Drive. It was such a band. It doesn't exist anymore, but that was my kind of first, foot in the music scene and playing live, and I absolutely loved it. I think we did quite well for kind of a local band. We had a few tours. We did Switzerland, Italy, right? Like the whole, tour in a van thing, we tried. But at some point that stopped, right? So the energy was out, but it was a logical place to stop the band. And what actually was very funny is we were in the middle of recording our kind of second EP. So we rented a home somewhere. We did all the recording in a weekend. And I remember when I was listening back to the songs that we recorded, I was like a little bit disappointed because I was, going for this, Texas in July, August Burns Red, high energy. And it was a little bit of an emotional record that came out. Like the songs were a little bit like a melancholy vibe to it. And it was such a, I think, statement of where the band was at kind of emotionally. Or there was, there was an energy that was a little bit down, but the songs were great. And we never released the stuff, and that's what I regret, because we still have that kind of on drive folders laying around. But it was such a, snapshot of a moment and, the sentiment. And I only realized years later when I was listening back to it, like, well, actually this is a, perfect summary of what happened at that moment. And also the band stopped, shortly after that. But so that band doesn't exist anymore, but that was my first one. And the other one was Prospect, where Erick, Louis, Davey, we were all in that kind of band. This was a metalcore focused band, I would say, inspired by North Lane, novelists, architects, a little bit, that vibe.
You can still find it on YouTube.
Yeah, you can still find both. I think also, as I was glad, you can still find stuff. Prospect was, I was really proud on that band as well. I think we got quite far, to be honest, in the Netherlands, right? Got booked to some festivals. I think what happened for me there as well is at some point kind of the momentum of the band was gone. Maybe that's a good way to look at it. I think we were a little bit late with our release planning. I think the shows were kind of we're playing a lot of shows, and not all shows were packed, so you get like into this phase where you're doing a lot of effort for very small venues, very small shows. I think again it did something with the energy, and at some point you would say, okay, maybe let's stop this, right? So
maybe,
but we had
sorry, maybe it was also the music, especially if I look at it from my point of view. The first single we released with Prospect was more deathcore oriented. I don't know why, but the second single changed. We had Matteo from Novelists on it, so it changed to a more metalcore-ish sound, and we stayed in that metalcore sound. And I don't know if I'm really talking for myself right now, but maybe the passion about the metalcore music was gone. And
Yeah,
with
and
of course, what Roul said with the shows, maybe those two things combined.
yeah, and I think the other thing is we know what works really well with 12 Thorns. If we think about what we're really good at, if we just kind of put no filters on our, songwriting, the music that we want to make, what we end up making is deathcore, right? So that's kind of where our default settings are for each band member, I think. And what we were trying with Prospect as well, we were trying to kind of do this metalcore thing, but it's not our, let's say, main, at least for me as a guitar player. I would also say I had to do some additional effort to get into that style, and the whole Jan thing came up, right? So it needs to be part of your DNA, I think, a bit. And so I think that was that combination of, it was a really cool band, and I still look back at it and was super proud of what we achieved, but we're maybe pushing it a little bit outside of our actual preferred style. And then in combination with, do we have enough momentum, right? And I think that led to, in the end, the band stopping. But I think it's good because all of those bands, at least for me personally, I took so many lessons from each band that we're now applying in 12 Thorns, and even that small rock band that we tried, like songwriting wise, I learned a ton from that, which we apply now. But also, what truly matters, right? So keeping the energy in the band, keeping the dialogue as a group of friends, right? It's super important. That is the foundation, right? If that is not there, or maybe someone is not feeling it anymore, okay, let's make sure that we can talk about that, so that we resolve it as a group, right? And we also go for the kind of longevity of the band, right? So I think that's important. So, but there are all lessons from previous band, at least for me, and what we do today. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think it's a really great question you're asking, actually, Sean, because I was counting the bands. I have a list, and they're not 20; it's only 14.
Okay.
But,
well,
okay.
Slight correction.
I was
right?
overreacting. Sorry for that. But you're saying, okay, are there any bands what are still active, in which you have participated? Actually, none of them is still active, and that comes back to the thing I just said. What is our ambition? Our ambition is stick together. Right. Stick together, and our ambition is to stick together for years. Don't break up on this, and keep the connection between the friendship as well. That is our ambition. That is my ambition, actually.
Yeah.
So that is really related to each other. It's also a friendship thing, actually, because what you see in a lot of big bands, they started as friends, but now they have separate rooms to change because they cannot see each other when they are off stage. Yeah. Okay. These are of course funny stories, but yeah, I think that is also an important goal for us: the continuity of our band, to continuously stay active. We need to stay active.
Oh yeah,
that is important.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like, oftentimes I look back and I think to certain band projects, I think to certain bands, and I'm like, well, how easy is it, right, to adjust a lineup? Say people want to go in different directions in life. I guess for me, sometimes I've noticed certain bands that maybe don't have that same level of integration or interconnection, that same level of brotherhood and friendship. And like, well, in that situation, like, why not just continue the band with other people? But I say this, and I have stated this in the past, thought this to myself even, I do believe out of an ignorance that then contradicts that same theme of brotherhood that I've been wanting for so long. for my own projects, for my own endeavors, it's difficult. It's difficult to make those changes. It's difficult to make those adjustments. And after all the lessons that you guys have learned, whether through Prospect or Erick with your 14 other discontinued projects, like, there are a lot of things you learn. There's a lot of money and time that you invest into truly, you believe, truly understanding what it means to be a musician. So then in that perspective, and looking back and recollecting upon that, reflecting upon all of your prior experiences, well, that is what truly contradicts that idea of, well, can't you just interchange members? No, sometimes you can't. Sometimes it makes or breaks the band if one person decides to leave. After all the time you've already spent, the conversations you've had with these people you're already close with, it changes everything. And I think that's very important for everyone to understand that happens to be listening to this. I mean, hell, you have bands like While She Sleeps from Sheffield, England, which one of their main marketing niches, right, is just the Sleeps Society or the Sleeps Brothers. And they've been playing together since they were 14, since they were scrawny little teenagers just fucking around over in Sheffield, England, right? That's one thing that they kind of ride the wave on, and that's, I think, the reason why they have one of the most successful band financial resource funneling Patreons, right? That being the Sleep Society. I do believe wholeheartedly that their sense of brotherhood and their sense of nostalgia, like utilizing footage of when they were kids, throwing that into music videos, that really set them apart from the rest in a unique way that I don't think many people appreciated or concerned themselves with on that level. And it became a very important part of the band. So it seems that you guys in the future are going to have that same, like, deeper, just like, yo, we're a brotherhood. Like, we're not planning to break up. And if one person leaves, boom, we're done, potentially. So it's like, whoa, like, one can only hope that all these guys stay together and, like, freaking flies, snakes, spiders in a fucking glue trap that you leave on the floor by a doorway. You know, you gotta stick together. And it's like, if we all get trapped together, we're not getting out. You know, that's kind of how intense you are of staying together and having the same people in the band, which I think is an awesome thing to hear. And therefore, I look forward to, in the future, doing sequel sessions, just bringing the same cast and crew back. You know what I mean? So after that, then, I think one thing I want to get from you guys before we conclude the first half of the session, which really this morning, in regards to preference of time and time being taken to get this done, the second half is going to be pretty quick. We're going to fly through that pretty quick today. But I wanted to conclude the people part of the podcast by getting you guys' perspective on location, or the theme and conversation of location. And, well, this is the Netherlands, right? We haven't really been able to do this before. I'm glad we're back. Hello, Netherlands. But what is a pro and con, in you guys' opinion, of having grown up and lived in the Netherlands?
Well, maybe I can go first. So actually, my professional career, I have a global role. So the time zone struggle is real. I have some teams in the Philippines, in Colombia, in the US, so that I had the opportunity to travel as well and see a little bit of the world in India, so those kind of things. And I can honestly say after that experience that I love where I'm at. I really love the Netherlands, and for some reason I appreciate all of the cultures and countries that I'm able to see. But I think even grown more attached to the Netherlands after seeing kind of the world and kind of being proud as well of where I'm coming from. And I think that's also part in our DNA, right? We're very, how do you say that? Very kind of sober style of people, right? So we're not really waving the Dutch flag everywhere, right? So this is not in our DNA. But I think seeing and learning about different cultures and hearing people talk about how their country is and being proud of that kind of made me look differently at the Netherlands. And well, I'm actually super proud of living here and the place where I'm at. So I think when it comes to pros, like lots of stuff is really well arranged in the Netherlands, even like on the culture sector, right? So subsidized things, like you as a musician, or if you want to host a show, you can get some government funding from that to arrange it. So even on that side, stuff is really well arranged here. It's always a fight. There's always like political debate on it, right? But those are the things I appreciate. I think like as a musician, the Netherlands is small, right? So it will just, I think, a small community in the worldwide stage, especially in deathcore and in metal scene. So I think it's difficult to get the attention. However, we have really good evidence now from the Netherlands that it's also no longer true. Like if you look at Distant, like what they are able to achieve, right, coming from the Netherlands, and of course Alan is from, I think, Slovakia, right, or Romania, I forgot, but do you know Louis? Yeah, Czech Republic. Czech Republic.
No, I don't know anymore.
Yeah, well, I think I say half of the band is from the Netherlands, and they're able to kind of break through Europe, right? But then also in the US, get a foot on the ground, which is, I think, incredibly difficult. Like I think the US kind of dominates the deathcore scene, and for really good reasons. Like the prime bands are coming from the US, right? Chelsea Grin, Lorna Shore, right? Diotis Morazan from us, from the Australia side, but that can be a con. But I'm super happy with what the Distant Boys have been able to achieve, right? Kind of breaking through that and getting to that US attention. That's been great. So I think that would be kind of my two answers on it. So yeah, okay. So the pros, I think everything is well arranged here. The cons as a musician, okay, yeah, you're just a small population in a very big market. And that can be a little bit of a downside.
Yeah. Lewis?
Yeah, like same things that Roul said. I'm going to talk about the scene right now, especially where I'm from. Like we don't live that far away from each other, but I live in a place called Heerlen, which has the MOC, which is in Dutch is Mijnstreek Oostkroe, which has to do with the mining culture here in the south part of the Netherlands. And especially when the mines were closed, you got a different scene, a punk scene, a hardcore scene. And because of that scene, the amount of bands within the hardcore punk community, but also new wave and more or less genres that were against the status quo at that point in time, they arose. So because of that MOC mentality, we have a chance to play at multiple different venues within the region that we live in. Like, for instance, Café Bluff, which is even a place where First Blood is playing. But also bands like Born From Pain, who, I don't know if you know the band Born From Pain. Okay, it's a hardcore band from Heerlen. And they're one of the bigger hardcore bands within our country. But because of those bands, you got a pretty tight community, a good community, and it's also one of the communities that made sure that, especially in the past with our earlier bands, that we had a chance to play. I think that everyone can agree with that.
Yeah, very strong scene.
That's definitely a pro, but it's more or less within the region, not within the country. A con. Still in the Netherlands, there's still a very big hardcore community, and they don't necessarily like metal. So there's still the difference between hardcore and metalcore and deathcore. It's still evident to this day. It's not a big of a problem as it was back in the day, but it's still there. So especially with the deathcore genre, there are a few hotspots within the Netherlands where deathcore is definitely bigger than ever. But there are also places where when you're a deathcore band that people don't know it, don't like it, or don't want to like it. So that's definitely a con.
Fair enough, yeah. And honestly, too, like, when it comes country to country, like, even genre, right? Like, getting a band started maybe in Sweden or, I do believe, Norway. I remember having a veteran black thrash metal band called Gluttony on the show. And I remember thinking like, well, this is a very, very prominent country for black metal. This is where all that cultic shit happened. This is where the events of Mayhem or Lords of Chaos occurred. So then when you have a more prolific genre country by country, absolutely, it's going to be difficult to distinguish yourself and really poke out of that scene as an Ignite the Church or Blackened Deathcore band. But that also means that once you break the surface, once you break the skin, if you will, you go under the skin and you're able to make an impression as a band in this alternate genre, same way that Distant probably did. They probably dealt with the same exact struggle before they, for example, signed to Unique Leader Records and then to Century Media Records later, which I didn't see that happening at all. I didn't think that that would happen. I thought that they would be with Unique Leader Records for a long time, just because, you know, not to say that Unique Leader Records is easy, but when it comes to actually being a world touring band or becoming a band that can get bigger producers and stuff, I do believe Unique Leader is one of the first steps in like kind of making your band a business, as opposed to more of a business, mind you, as opposed to maybe something more recreational, a hobby, something that you go to venues every now and then for, but really like that you stay within those means, right? Or you prefer to stay within those means. So then when you guys are trying to get a Blackened Deathcore band, just like, okay, for fans of Lorna Shore, Shadow of Intent, Enterprise Earth, it's like, well, if we're playing in a country that's mostly known for hardcore bands, yeah, it's going to be difficult to kind of break away from that and be like, yo, we're not doing hardcore. Like, that's prolific for this country, but we're doing our own thing. It's difficult, but, you know, without repeating too many of the same things I just said, once you do break through, like, it will be big for you guys, I'm sure. And hopefully this session contributes to that. You know what I mean? Just telling your stories and stuff. So, and Eric, of course, I wanted to get your take on the Netherlands too. And like a pro, a con, maybe if there's anything different that you had to say compared to Roul or Lewis, we'll probably focus on that.
Well, maybe to add on, you know, in general, we are living in a really safe country, and that is really important, I think, for everybody to be safe. And if you don't, or if you're not distracted by unsafe situations in your country, then you can more focus on your passion. And for us, that's making music, of course. And I think a pro really is, we are living in the south of the Netherlands, and I think a pro is that we are really close to the borders for Belgium and Germany, and that brings a lot of opportunities with it, because, for instance, we had a incredible great show 2 weeks ago, actually 3 weeks ago, in Belgium. It was a sold out show, Colossus Death Fest, and we were okay, what do I want to say? It was a great opportunity for us to play in Belgium. It was a sold out show. It was an amazing crowd. It was a really good organization. Everybody was really kind. It was really good. We had a lot of good sales of merchandise, and you know, there is a really alive scene in Belgium. That is what I want to say, and that is a great opportunity for us as a band, that we are close to the borders, and we can play a little bit internationally. Actually, so that brings a lot of options for us, which is great.
Also, traveling in Europe is easy.
Yes, traveling in Europe is easy. Yeah, and it's great actually. It's great to do. Yeah, cool. I think that is to add to the other to the stories of the other guys.
Nicely said, Eric.
I agree. And I think one of the only other question I would want to ask, for the sake of time, regarding location is if living in the Netherlands, growing up in the Netherlands, has influenced the way that you guys write music. How? Why and how?
Interesting question.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
I have to think about this.
I don't know, because I didn't grow up somewhere else actually. So,
Well, yeah. So maybe it comes back to like I like your point, Eric. Like it's a safe country. Like all the basics and foundations are covered, right? So there's not a lot of stuff to worry about. So there is lots of opportunity as well for parents to give an opportunity for the kids to learn an instrument or go on that kind of creative exploration. So I remember when I was, deciding on my instrument, there was like a music school that offered like drum lessons, harp, accordion, piano, vocals, and guitar. So I had kind of the option to experiment and drums, I believe. All of those different things, and then choose my passion and my instrument in the end. And I think that comes down to as well, okay, like the Netherlands, it's a safe country, stuff is arranged, like you have those kind of, nice musical institutions, or there's an opportunity to play shows. So I think that influenced it to that extent. Like it's accessible. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Musically, to be honest, I'm very kind of internationally focused. I'm not necessarily just listening to Dutch bands. There are many, by the way. There are really good bands. We had the opportunity to play the Wakker Metal Battle this year, and we met a lot of Dutch bands in those semi-finals and the finals, and the quality is just impressive, right? So I think there's lots of stuff to kind of see and learn there. But yeah, like musically, it has always been kind of for me internationally, like US driven or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I can add something to that, because we as the Netherlands, we are really international oriented country, because of course we are really small, so we need to do business with other countries. And we when we were young, I think like 25 years ago, we had a lot of international television.
Movies, series, MTV, Headbangers Ball, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Hoe zeg je zenders?
Channels.
Channels. Sorry, television channels. So we had a lot. We grew up with subtitled. We see a lot of English movies. We always subtitled in the Netherlands, and we had a lot of international music programs on our television. What helped us to grow in our music careers. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Like when the thing is, I think this is kind of a random thing, but it does play into that. I've been learning Japanese for like 2.5 years through an app called Duolingo. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not confident enough, I don't think, to quote an entire sentence relevant to the topics of this conversation, for example. But the thing is, when I participate in the media or creations of another country, I think one thing that I definitely prefer, and I kind of give people, I will admit, I give people that I live with slack for this because they prefer everything in English. That way it's easier to digest. I'm like, well, of course, I don't actually care that much. So mind you, this is more or less a bluff of a premise, but I'll give them grief for it, because in my opinion, when you're watching Japanese animated shows, well, there are some shows that sound good in English as well, because it's very much a Western catered culture. US, the United States, is a big participant in the economy that is figurines or memorabilia for certain shows, participating in ongoing shows, watching that every Sunday instead of Sunday football, One Piece, right? And that's been going on since October of 1999. But when I watch those shows, I personally prefer to watch them in their original language. That way I can kind of get another perspective and understand how they speak. It also helps me learn how to speak Japanese myself here and there, right? So I think that's very, very important when seemingly the Netherlands then, or from you guys' perspective, is, amongst other things, based in Europe, right, where the relativity of space in between countries, as opposed to states over here in the United States, well, it's about the same thing. You have drastically different cultures going on throughout the European continent, or the UK continent. So then I think it's only natural that you end up absorbing various cultures growing up, because everything is so close together. But the thing is, us here going from Arizona to New Mexico, for example, is going from please excuse me, because like I haven't looked at a world map in a long time. Not really. You could go from France to Germany in like 20 minutes. Mind you, you're going to need like passports and stuff, but you can go from country to country in maybe 4 hours, you know? It's not that difficult. Here it's a little bit different. So naturally then, like I said, you guys are absorbing a lot of different cultures growing up, and therefore maybe you are also encouraged, or there is more incentive to learn up to 4 languages over time. Like it's just, it makes more sense when you're over in Europe. So it's awesome. So, you know, I think that would conclude the location part of this morning's conversation. The last thing I want to ask on a more personal level with each and every one of you for the people part would be maybe 5 albums of all time, which I know that's going to be difficult. There's a lot of music all of us have listened to every Friday, you know, for all of our lives. So just quote me 5 different albums that you always go back and listen to. And it doesn't even have to be from this century, right? Because you guys have been around a little bit longer than I have. I was born in 99. You guys have been around a little longer. So what are 5 records that each of you could quote that you think would be maybe relevant to your creative process for 12 Thorns?
Roul, start.
Difficult question. So no, I think for 12 Thorns specifically, there are a few, I think, main influences. Of course, the Lorna Shore stuff in the early days was something that triggered me. But the albums as of Will joined, I would say that's mostly where I kind of picked up on. Mental Cruelty would be the other one, musically that I'm super into and I draw a lot of inspiration from. And then I think other influences guitar-wise come from really my past. I was heavily into Vader at some point, so my guitar riffs, especially the fast picking stuff, is still kind of founded in some of that stuff. There's a album from Vader called, the track on there is As Heavens Collide. Actually, that was the reason why my first band was called that, because of that song. So that's influential. And then some of the, I like the Chelsea Gren stuff, like the most recent albums, so that's influential. And if I go back a little bit more, what was for me in my guitar style, I like big records. Then I go to kind of Parkway Drive stuff, like Horizons, Killing with a Smile. That is where I really, really picked up on, the riff side of things, which I still use today. And like As I Lay Dying stuff, Shadows of Security, those kind of things. Like musically, guitar-wise, I think that's kind of where the style today comes from.
Naturally. Lewis?
For me, I think with the interest in more heavy music, I guess Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park.
That's awesome.
That was like a gateway. Also Issues, the album Issues by Korn.
Okay.
I still love Korn to this day. The first album of Slipknot was also one of bigger influences.
Yeah,
I think you wanted to go
missed that one.
Like for me, Slipknot, the first time I heard that was the song Sick. I was like fully into it. I was like, holy shit, am I able to listen to this? Won't my parents be mad? Stuff like that. I think like inspiration wise, I'm gonna call more than 5. I'm gonna call more than 5 albums. It's the first album by Whitechapel, Somatic Defilement.
Okay.
Also The Cleansing by Suicide Silence, that MySpace era. Nadir by Black Tongue. I should be able to. I should always call that album. It's like one of the best deathcore albums ever made.
Agree.
Yeah. We're also talking about Aaron Kitcher and stuff from Infinite Annihilator. Like they should bring back Black Tongue. And I also think like lore-wise, if the way that I write lyrics and story-wise, I think the first album by Make Them Suffer
Neverbloom? Possibly, yeah.
That's a new one.
And
I
there's
like
way
that.
more.
Oh yeah, naturally. There's way more. All right.
Also, the album Kind of Magic by Queen, also
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Very
That's an
good.
outlier. I like that. Eric?
I think we are missing one really important band, guys. So I really need to add this one. It's of course called the band called Behemoth. You know,
Yeah.
it's a really large inspiration for us as a band.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
The first album what popped up into my mind when you asked the question was Iowa, Slipknot, of course. And in terms of inspiration, you know, Joe Jordison was an inspiration for a lot of metal drummers. Definitely for me as well. Nowadays, you know, I'm really into Shadow of Intent. Their latest album is, you know,
So good.
really high maturity of metal, you know. Extreme contrasts. This guy, Bryce Butler, is an amazing drummer. He has an amazing technique, you know, it's incredible. Together with him, you have of course the Black Dahlia Murder. What is more straight on, you know, it's a different kind of band. But if you have more like technical band, yeah, I'm also really into all the albums of Aborted. Aborted, you probably heard of as well.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I think there are a lot of classics. What will remain classic? You know, Lamb of God, riffs of Lamb of God, drum patterns of Lamb of God. What everybody knows. You know, we tried it over and over and over a time to improve our skill set. Actually, yeah.
Should have gone first. Like you're all calling, you know, albums that are fuck. I wanted to call it that one. Like Behemoth should be on top of the list.
Behemoth should be on top of the list. You know, so
Yes.
what is the top 3 bands? You know, Behemoth.
Yeah.
They meant a lot for us. I think.
Yeah, that's a
especially
huge
with the
inspiration.
Blackened
Actually.
Yeah, actually from a show perspective, because we are really want to do we really adding more and more show elements to our live set, and I think Behemoth is a really big inspiration for that.
You're on the top of the game, really. Like with the you know, eerie vibes that they create live, and we've been to a couple of their shows, right? And it's such an experience each time. So yes.
I have yet to see Behemoth, so fair enough. That's
You never
awesome.
saw them?
No, not yet. I think, what is it? I have yet to see Whitechapel. I have yet to see Behemoth.
All right.
What is it? Shadow of Intent. I have yet to see live. Chelsea Grin. There's a lot. There's a lot of bands that I've had to miss out on just because, like, I would dare say that throughout the time of me having consistent jobs and having my own financial resources to contribute, let alone an upbringing that didn't exactly prioritize live music, let alone music in general, or creative recreational mediums, I guess, if you will. There's a lot of bands that I have yet to see, and a lot of bands that I really, really want to see again and again and again. And not only that, but it's like also when I have been doing this, for example, and this is just one thing out of like 5 or 6 things now. When I've been doing this the whole time, it's like there's also an aspect of trying to turn, unfortunately, whether it's YouTuber mindset or not, there's always a mindset of trying to make sure that whatever I do, however I do participate in the scene, hopefully eventually brings in some sort of momentum, recognition, reception, financial gain, unfortunately. So yeah, simply said, there's a lot of bands that I have yet to see live, and it drives me crazy half the time that I think going to live shows is like become the job. It's like I go there to network, but of course I also go there to participate and really do my homework and understand what it means show by show, day by day, week by week, etc. What it means to become a live band and what it means to become a successful live band, what you have to do with lights, the photographers you have to hire, merch tables, having someone watching the merch, so that way no one fucking steals merch. Like there's a lot that plays into it, but yeah, there's a lot of bands I have yet to see. So I do believe then that will conclude the people part of the podcast, like I said. And going into the second half, really, we're having y'all depersonalize. I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to check out any of the literally at least a little over 100 episodes that we've done before, whether for Distant or other artists, as we are still re-uploading most of the more iconic sessions, I would say, that we've done in these last 4 years. But first question, and really this is a test to see how much of a hive mind y'all are, right? First question would be, where did the name 12 Thorns come from? Is there lore behind it? Is there a story behind it?
I think Louis is the right one to answer this.
Yeah, there's a story behind it. It's no lore. Like every band, you need to come up with a band name. And we came up with 13 Thorns. Especially when you live in the Netherlands, you've got different English accents. Like Erick has a different English accent, Roul has a different English accent, I have a different English accent. But especially in the part where we're from, not a lot of people can even speak perfect Dutch. So we came to the conclusion that if the name would be 13 Thorns, people would pronounce it as 13 Thorns. 13 Thorns. So it's a tongue picker. And that's one of the reasons why we went to 12 Thorns. It's easier. It's a one less letter on the cap. But also you can make more subliminal messaging with it, like the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ, the 12 thorns on the crown of the thorn crown of Jesus.
Yeah, and I think we had a few practical reasons. So we've all been in a band called Prospect before, which is an awesome name. But if you would Google Prospect, you would find, I don't know, like 50,000 companies called like that. You'll get into the sales part because that's a prospect. If you don't watch out, you're in a motor gang, right? So it's a great name, but yeah, searchability was horrible. So we also thought about that. So kind of doing the Roman numeral thing next, that it's kind of on point for the vibe that we want to create. It was also helping us with, okay, how do you find our band even, right? So it was this combination, I think, of finding the right name to match the vibe, because we were very clear on what, dark style black metal inspired, music we wanted to make. And we were very clear on whatever we do, whether it's image, music, live, merch design, it should all match, right? So that was kind of the premises of where we started brainstorming on band names, and then we ended indeed on that 13 Thorns -1 to 12 Thorns. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. And honestly, when it comes to naming a band project, I've heard more often than not with people who want to really market their band that, for example, a name like mine, which would be Blind Without Our Failures, it's like, that's a fucking mouthful. So instead then I tell people, well, once we do get big, if you just want to call it Blind and regarded by its first name, do that. Make it easier for yourself. After all, we also plan to, make an oath logo, which will act also as a clan crest for the band, incorporating insignias and sigils from all of the members. And I quote, for the Blind, right, the first name, there's going to be an oath that is constructed from those 5 letters and turned into this mess of calligraphy that either I'm going to have to do or someone else will do. But they'll also play well to our live performance, I think, where every time we open a set, traditional spotlight as if we're in a theater, beguiling in benevolent behold, lingering in logic are the innovations inside infantile imagination, never ending in the neutral dominion in all dire to daydreams. Like each member of the band is going to say one of those letters phrases, and then boom, that's just going to kind of like pan in on a projector screen behind us. But from a marketing sense, either that's going to work really well or that's going to fail drastically, right? And that's unfortunately the gamble that you have to take when it comes to even identity with the band project. So sometimes doing just 12 Thorns, it's like, okay, I can remember that. Can I remember Blind Without Our Failures? Maybe. I'll remember Blind, but there's a certain approach these days. There's attention span of people that participate or maybe even doom scroll, as the term suggests, where they are 24/7 on social media, whether during their 9 to 5 or after their 9 to 5, in their personal life where, well, they just simply develop a digital footprint depending on how long they are participating and partaking in social media, right? So 12 Thorns is like, boom, okay, there you go. 12 Thorns, Ignite the Church, Blackened Deathcore from the Netherlands. Let's move on, right? And then what I like about you guys is that, as I've been suggesting to various international bands over time since I've started this whole thing, this whole experience, I always love to see when a band utilizes their local tongue, their local language, and incorporates it into their music, let alone incorporating it into lyrics, the name of an EP, the name of an album. And I think that's why Mental Cruelty's Zwielicht, for example, worked as well as it did. Everybody's like, whoa, what does Zwielicht mean? Or what is Zwielicht? It's like, no, it's Zwielicht, and Zwielicht means twilight. And I'm like, that's actually really, really cool. And in you guys' case, Duyvelsziele?
Duyvelsziele,
damn it.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit. That's actually, naturally, in my opinion, when it comes to a band from another country naming an EP or album in their own language, it's like, well, what does that mean? That alone, I think, is enough to entice people and coerce is an aggressive term. It coerces them, though, into at least giving the EP a look. And like, okay, so this is in another language now. I have to figure out what this means, but the EP cover is cool, so boom. But that's commentary for a little bit later. In you guys' opinion, hopefully same thing. This is a hive mind answer. This is a collective answer. What, in your opinion, distinguishes 12 Thorns from other bands in the Ignite the Church or Blackened Deathcore community?
I think I can give this a first shot, but please chime in, I would say. I think when we started the band, we wanted to balance a little bit more between traditional deathcore, like the heavy, hitting breakdown stuff, and the traditional metal sounds and scenes. So we try to, I always see this as kind of, it's like a meter, like you can have it more towards deathcore, you have it more towards metal, but kind of finding that sweet spot of taking the best of metal, the riffs, the blast beats, the heavy stuff, the black metal core vibe, right, and blending that in with the nice brutal breakdowns and the nice modern take of what deathcore brings. So I think we push ourselves to keep that balance, and I think what's great about the band is that we have like this mixed influence, right? So if I go like, what are your favorite bands? Like Erick calls out usually very death metal style bands, right? And I have as well. Of course, I listen to metalcore, but I also listen to Nile and D-side and have that, Vader background. So there's this natural influence of, more traditional metal. And on the other hand, also kind of the deathcore vibes that get into the band. So I think that's unique. And the other element, I would say, we do spend a lot of time on show, live performance, theatrics, making it more than just a band on a stage, right? It should be an experience, and everything should match, from the interludes, the lights, shows, like we bring our own lights, right? We program that. Our outfits are well thought out, right? We're always trying to kind of level up on that part. So it should be an experience. And I think Rammstein for sure, right? They have a great saying, which was, man muss etwas zu sehen haben in German, which means people need to have something to look at a show. And that's for me the kind of inspiration behind what we should be doing with the show as well. It should be more than just the music. There should be theatrics around it that kind of keeps the attention going.
Absolutely. And with any Ignite the Church band, in my opinion, For example, Worm Shepherd. I think that's one of the best examples in recent years, if not Behemoth. Lorna Shore, I think, needs to lean a little bit more into like corpse paint and shit, but they're also not planning to be more black metal influenced anytime soon. They're more focused on a sound closer to Shadow of Intent, so of course I need to keep that in mind. But I'll tell you what, I would love to see more bands in the scene just getting dirtier and dirtier with the way that they do their physical appearance, or maybe even having more bones and skulls on stage. Bands like Heilung from, I do believe, Norway, but I don't remember, so don't quote me on that. They are one of the best examples, in my opinion, of a really enthralling stage appearance. Like, they're literally dressed in traditional Viking gowns, and then, well, they perform Viking ritual music. So that's, of course, they kind of have to, in my opinion, have bones on stage and be clacking actual bones together as an instrument. That shit's iconic. So I'm definitely hoping to see more of that in the future. And who knows, maybe 12 Thorns is one of the bands that does that, but we'll see. No pressure. Louis, Eric, do you guys have any other commentary to offer on the distinguishment of 12 Thorns from the other Ignite the Church bands?
I would say passion. Passion.
I agree.
I would say.
Yeah, passion. I agree with what Roul says, and of course what Erick says with passion. Also the thing with the native language in the music. There are bands who are doing it in the deathcore scene who are also doing it right now, so we open the gate for those people. But especially in the black metal community within the Netherlands, they do a lot of stuff in Dutch. And especially when you try to embrace the more black metal side of your music, and therefore making it easier for people in the metal community, not in the core community, but more in the metal community, to appreciate the genre that you're making. So you can put us within a metal festival, or you can put us within a hardcore festival. It fits. And I think that's one of the things that makes us different from the other Ignite, well, not all, but a lot of bands in the Ignite the Church community are still more in the core side, and while I'm not talking about Shadow of Intent, because what they're doing is excellent, and also Mental Cruelty, excellent stuff, but a lot of the low-key Ignite the Church bands are all fully deathcore, and we're more leaning towards metal, especially when bands do a breakdown. We usually do a solo or do a breakdown with more technical death metal kind of drums, what Erick is doing. So that's stuff that separates us from other bands. Yeah.
I like that. I really do like that. And on another note, it's really nice to hear someone on the show, utilizing that term of Ignite the Church, because I don't know. It might just be me. It might just be me and Derek Connolly of Nithful, but I don't know. There's a ring to it, Ignite the Church. Like back in the day, imagine.
I didn't hear it. Haven't heard it before, but I think I'm gonna use it.
I like it. And now I'm curious on where you've heard that before, other than this show and maybe perhaps the posts and contributions of me and Derek to that coined term. But, it just has a ring to it. Like, imagine back in the day when metal was first getting started, before, they called it metal. They were just like, heavy rock. And they're like, no, that doesn't sound right. Like, metal, like, boom, boom. We're slapping metal. That's what this is. And then new metal, right? They're like, well, it's like meth head metal, right? Like, because Korn, at the very beginning, they had their participation in those harder substances, and then they found religion, they found God, and they changed for the better. So it's, I don't know, it just has a ring to it. And ever since I heard it from Derek, I'm like, Ignite the Church is fucking sick, because, it alludes to mayhem. It alludes to the more occultic practices back in the day of more hardcore bands that then would call a lot of people today posers for not burning churches down. But
Yeah.
let's see. I think next step, this is like second to last part of the session this morning. Would Lewis, you're in charge of lyrical contributions, right?
Yeah.
Did you want to go quickly under the skin of you guys' newest EP and give us like a brief summary of what each of the tracks are about?
Yeah, I can give a brief summary. The title track, Duyvelsziele. Is about a ritual. It's about a person, could be a guy, could be a girl, doesn't matter, who transcends and ascends into evil ways. That's also the Dutch part, which, if I translate it, is in the void there's no life. I gave my soul to the devil. So that's the translated part. Then you've got the Kelderbode. Which is actually a fun story. Roul can tell you about it.
We actually have it here. So the Kelderbode, this is the, let me put it on frame. This is a newspaper that the grandpa of my girlfriend made, and it is a religious paper, right? So it was a local church paper that was handmade and handwritten, and at some point I found it, going through some old stuff in the attic. And then I thought it was, such a cool vibe, because you see, of course, it has Christ on it, and you see the Kelderbode on there. And I think that started the idea of, can we make a song about that kind of theme, like a local newspaper, someone in the basement kind of, typing at that, I don't know, religious piece, but then kind of going evil, right? So that's kind of the twist to that story. But it's kind of based on that image. I think it actually, I can't remember. I think we even wrote a whole song around it, if I remember correctly, because I found this and I think I showed it to the band. Say, hey, look how cool this is, right? And then I think then we only started writing the song. So it really had that kind of theme in mind, and with the church bells coming in, so everything was kind of in that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but in my opinion, when you truly think about it, most likely that's how the first iteration of the Bible was written. Like either in the basement somewhere over in Jerusalem, just some random fucking hut, or, it was written across the countries. Maybe even part of it was written in caves, It's a similar process, most likely. They just didn't really speak of the context of when and how and where it was written. So that's pretty cool. Next track?
Offsick. Which, if you translate it to English, it's called grave piece or tombstone. Well, not really tombstone, but more something, a piece you put on a tombstone. It's actually loosely based on the Hellraiser franchise, making transcending with pain and pleasure. There's also the more or less, I did a different kind of accent, more Scandinavian, which is based on the Nosferatu film that came out last year. So I did my best Bill Skarsgård impression, but I do a sentence which was from the Hellraiser movies, which is like angels to some, demons to others. So it's based on that, transcending pain, pleasure, filth, all that stuff, all the good stuff. And then you've got the last track, which is Waken. which if you translate it to English, it's still awake, but it's the when
Wake
people
for the dead,
think,
right? Yeah.
The last phase in life, actually,
Yeah.
that you watch over people before they die.
Oh, like the last 10
Yeah.
seconds of life when all the DMT is being released.
No, not really. It's the part where everyone comes together to say goodbye to the one who's going to die.
Oh, funeral.
No, it's not a funeral. It's when they're still alive.
I see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the Dutch thing. I don't know.
No, it's a thing over here too. I guess we usually I don't think there's a term for it, but we'll go with what you guys are going with.
In Dutch, we call it waken. Okay. Also, again, about a ritual, about dark entities trying to form a ritual to a woman who is pregnant, and they're actually trying to put a demon inside of her. All that stuff.
Lovely.
Just light stuff.
Just
Try to keep it
normal
light.
Blackened Deathcore stuff, you know.
Nonchalantly, yeah, I like it. Okay, cool. And I guess to quickly get through the Under the Skin session then, and this will probably be the shortest we've done of the year, but just in respect to you guys' time, after then doing a loose lobotomy dissection of this EP, and in the opinion of the members of 12 Thorns, what distinguishes this first EP maybe from some of the records that inspired it? And this doesn't have to be like, oh, this EP is as good as the other one. What do you mean? Nothing. That's not what I'm asking. Like, what do you think makes this different, just musically, from those other albums, and maybe for the sake of identity for your band?
Going to say something. Of course. It's not our debut EP. It's actually our second EP.
Oh, well.
Doesn't matter. But if you look at our first EP, which is called Wreath, and you take the second EP, Duyvelsziele, I think it's way more mature.
Definitely.
Like we really found, and I go listen to our first EP. It's also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Deezer, all that stuff. You can actually hear that we're still looking for a sound that fits us. I'm not saying that our first EP isn't good, especially in the time that it was written, and while we're still still searching for a definitive sound. But I think that the new EP is way more the definitive sound that we actually wanted to accomplish with our first EP, Wreath. So, of course, Wreath also inspired the new EP. Yeah.
I think to add on to that is also the evolution of the artwork. You know, the concept, the creations. All the credits to Louis, of course, for helping us out with that. He's really great, and designing, coming up with the concept of the lyric, the concept of the EP, and the concept of the artwork. And I think that is a really high step forward compared to our first EP. Yeah.
Yeah, and for this band, that all needs to match, right? So we're super precise on, okay, what does that need to look like? The vibe needs to match. If you look at the album cover, you see the live show, you listen to the sounds, you listen to the interlude. It should be like a logical thing that you're looking at something from 12 Thorns, right? So, but I would say fully agree with everything, like more mature, of it, more definitive sound. And I think if we think about the next thing, right, we will probably evolve further, but I think the bass is more solid now, and I think that the bass sound of 12 Thorns you hear back on Duyvelsziele.
I also, to add on, by the way, thanks for the compliment, Erick. But vocal-wise, the first EP I was fully focused on technique and not on emotion. And I think even in Duyvelsziele, there's still technique, of course, but I put more emotion in it. I do more one-takers instead of doing things sentence for sentence for sentence. There's also something, doing a recording session with our guest vocalist, Stan from Deeproot, like he did everything in one take. And I was like, I do a sentence, I stop, do the sentence again, and so on and so on. But I really got inspired in the way how he recorded it. And Roul, who is the producer for the EP, and also for every recording that we do. But he was also more like, can you do it in one take? Can you do it with more emotion? Can you do it with, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You need to feel the pain and the anger. And that's also something in Wreath. There is, in my opinion, if I look back, there's way less emotion in the way that the vocals are done instead of the new EP.
I think it's more flat. You know, the general sound is like really flat. No, you have a lot of contrast in our new EP, Duyvelsziele. It's way
the
more
dynamics. We've spent a lot of time on dynamics. Like if you want to have something hit heavy, like a beat down or something, you need to, dial it back a little bit before that thing hits, because if everything is continuously at 11, then nothing stands out. So I think indeed dynamic. Quickly want to correct, I want to give full production credits to Ramon Kluft from Vibrant Audio Works. He did the full production of Duyvelsziele, super happy with it. I did the recording, right, and I think that's what you're referring to. But I want to give a shout out to Ramon, because he did an excellent job and really kind of elevated our sound as well. And super happy with the end product. So if I have an opportunity to do a quick shout out to him, I will.
Absolutely. And I do apologize too, in retrospect, because I was completely oblivious to this not being your debut EP, and I'm glad that we got that corrected in session, because depending on how quickly I can get this Crosscast out beforehand, that is absolutely how I would have worded it. And then there it wouldn't be too much of an issue, but it'd be like, ooh, like I didn't really. Then it makes it feel like I didn't really do my homework, and this was truly something that was done last minute. I'm like, oh, another band from the Netherlands, like, let's go. So thank you for correcting me on that. Final question then for the Under the Skin part would be, why did Duyvelsziele became an EP? Like, why did it become an EP instead of an album if you guys already had an EP out?
It's a good question, and I think it comes back a little bit on how we multiple things, right? So first of all, I think we need to lock in our sound, and we felt like we had a good group of songs that kind of defined the 12 Thorns sound. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is we're not a full-time band, like we're a part-time band, so we have to kind of balance in how you keep momentum as a band, not kind of go into full blackout mode for 1.5 years because you're writing like eight tracks and recording that. So we wanted to make sure that we put out some new material, and that was one of the reasons why we went for the EP. I do think we all believe that our next step now after this kind of second EP would be a full length. So that would be our next move if we think about the writing process. We're in the midst of release, right? So we're not writing yet, but I think we all know that kind of the next step would be not a new EP, maybe one single in between, but definitely an kind of full length style record that we'll be working towards.
Yeah, I think, like, I agree with everything Roul says. We talked about this. On a marketing standpoint, I think, especially with these days where everything is digital, I think EPs and singles is the way to go. Like, you can get an even amount of exposure and a bigger fan base with the release of an EP, even with a single. Just look at To the Hellfire by Lorna Shore. So, yeah, of course, we want to do a full length. Everyone wants to do a full length. It's something to be proud of if you do a full length. Is it necessary? I don't know. I think if you do a very good single like To the Hellfire, it serves the purpose of releasing music. And if Duyvelsziele was a debut album instead of an EP, I think we would get the same amount of feedback and recognition than what we do now. So we would have put way more effort in it, and eventually the reward would be the same.
So actually, it's minimal effort, maximum result on this.
Yeah. Sounds negative, but it's the
Yeah, and so I think it's a good point. So it needs to be the right time for the full length, and I think we still have potential of kind of getting bigger and getting audience engagement through EPs and singles. So that's still for us a logical step to do, and it still kind of gives us the benefit that we're looking for as well, and the exposure. At some point there is a tipping point, right? Well, people would look at you, and especially if labels get engaged, right? A full length is then for the art as well a little bit more interesting. You have a little bit as a fan as well an experience of maybe listening to like a full 30 to 45 minutes of a piece of art in a certain extent. So but indeed we need to be smart about it, right? Again, we're not a full-time band, so we need to plan our moves logically, maximize the time and maximize the effort indeed, and the results.
I think that a full-length album is also more interesting when we're talking about physical media.
Yep.
Like, we all want Duyvelsziele to be on a big vinyl LP, of course. Cost-wise, I have to look at Erick, of course. It's tough. It's difficult to do that.
It's not interesting actually for us now. On this phase, it's not interesting because the investment is too big. Yeah.
And for collectors, of course, and there are a lot of people who want a Duyvelsziele LP or physical media, but like Erick said, it's not interesting for us at this moment. But when we're doing a full length, of course, we want that to be on physical media. It has to be interesting for us. So looking at it at a business wise. That's one of the reasons why it's an EP.
Yeah, fair enough. And not only that, but like speaking upon marketing approach and road mapping for bigger releases and stuff, I know one band that I've been inspired by, ironically, has been Distant, because what they did during their Aeons of Oblivion cycle was create multiple EPs that had multiple features on them. They built that up, had 3 EPs, and then dropped a couple more songs, and then we had Aeons of Oblivion, right? This massive record with an album cover that actually expands upon the EP cover of one of the EPs, and then it just collects everything into one go, provides, I think, more incentive for physical merch acquirement. Not only that, but when they do the storybook writing that they do, which I have, I think, The Rise of Tarantophobia from Indie Merch. I have a copy of that because I thought it was very, very fascinating. In my opinion, when it comes to becoming a bigger band, of course, you have to have these standalone singles. You have to have your first couple EPs. But then if you can make it happen, and if it works together well enough, maybe not putting a year in between an EP and then a corresponding album. I think Distant's approach to marketing and how they've been releasing their music, or how they did release their music during the Aeons of Oblivion cycle, it was really unique. And I'll tell you what, that's definitely something that I plan to do with my own project. Like, literally, I want it to be an annual band, which requires a lot of money, sure, but still, like, the ambition necessary to potentially create a 17 to even 40 track album, well, that requires at least 2 years of EP, and then big album, the same way that they did. And that's more or less the intention when I have the budget to do so and the consistent musicians to work with to make it happen. So that will be the end of Under the Skin for Duyvelsziele. And now we are in the final part of the Anatomy Crosscast. These are the last two questions. This offers, I think, a fresh opportunity for every guest that we have, especially during these first date sessions, to critique the show. So I won't take anything negatively. This is constructive criticism moment for each and every guest, and especially for our first band based in the Netherlands, since two members, one former, of Distant, which happens to be one of the biggest players, the biggest dogs from the Netherlands. So whoever wants to go first, you may. We can go in the same order we've gone the entire session. Go ahead and provide me a pro and con, maybe something you like about the Anatomy Crosscast in your experience today alone, and something you think that we could improve upon for possibly bands that you'll be recommending after this.
Okay, so I only have pros, Sean. I will be very honest. First of all, appreciate the opportunity that you have us here. So thank you again for that. Really appreciate that, and especially as a Dutch-based band, getting an opportunity to speak to someone in the US, and you getting up early speaking to us. So really appreciate that. I love the questions, very deep questions. It makes me think about some stuff that I haven't thought about for a while. So I think that's good. I think maybe the con is I regret my answers on the albums because I really missed a few critical ones. That's my only con, which is basically me messing up with the album.
No worries. Lewis?
Yeah, also pros. Thank you so much for having us. Good questions. I don't regret the albums I called. So cons. I don't really have any cons. It's something I should not call this a con. It was last minute. But let's make that a pro because come on, you got up early for us. But planning wise for me, logistically, I just came from holiday, had a 2-day delay with my flight. Wasn't able to record an intro where I was satisfied with. So that's more a con for me. Definitely would like to do that again, maybe for a different session. So that's, and of course I have to do this with the baby, so I have to get up sometimes, but Sean, big kudos to you. Thanks for having us, and good questions. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Honestly, the questionnaire that I usually send to all of my guests is a lot bigger than what we ended up asking this morning in total. I do believe, and I can confirm this because I've written this shit. I've developed it over time, and just to be as expansive as possible. That way we have backup questions to backup questions. Say the conversation gets really, really noticeably, audibly stale, right? Or maybe the guest at hand, whether last minute or maybe this was prepared ahead of time, but they have other things that they're preparing for as a band. I try to make it to where there's a bunch of interesting questionnaire. And not only that, but for next time, right? Because I know we'll be having you guys on again for your full length, your eventual full length, whether that's a year or two from now. I don't really mind. Honestly, one thing I do want to do next time is, even reflecting off of the questions we already answered today, either both having the remaining members join in, one, but two, ask other questions and kind of fulfill that questionnaire that way. Truly, that is the full Anatomy Crosscast experience. But Erick, what critique did you have to offer for the show?
Actually, only positive vibes only coming your way from the Netherlands. I think you really made me think about the questions, the location, what impact did it have, and I think are really good questions. The only thing what I could mention is maybe in the start we had some audio disruptions when playing the song. I don't know if it came through YouTube or it was my connection. What was maybe?
I can hear it too, yeah.
All right. So that would be the only improvement. And again, thank you for having us. This means a lot for us, and I really hope that we have a second conversation in a year or in a year, or 1.5 year, 2 years, I don't know, but in the future, in the near future, not longer than 2 years. Let's make that agreement, actually.
You're like, we're not taking 2 years to make a record. Like, we'll be back soon, they said. That's awesome.
Yes, and I think that I speak for all the boys that we wish you all the best with your show, and you're doing a great job getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I mean, come on, who would do that? And your commitment on that is really really great, and your questions are really good. And yeah, you did a great band pick as well. So compliments for that as well.
Absolutely.
Sean, I also have a question.
Yes, sir.
You asked the question that what if the Netherlands, our country, inspired the way we write our songs. So I've got a follow-up question on that. Do you think, or do you hear, and I'm not talking about the Dutch sentences, but the way our music is written, do you think it has a European sound instead of a US sound?
Absolutely.
And what is it?
Right. So one thing that I've really appreciated about European acts is that in recent years, with the improvement of quality in production, possibly even whether conscious, intentional, or non-intentional, I hear a lot from European countries Thal influence, no matter what band it is. And what I mean by Thal is, Duyvelsziele or Humanity's Last Breath. When I listen to European bands, no matter what band it is, no matter what tier of the true counterculture world they happen to be in, when I listen to European metal, when I listen to European Ignite the Church music, I swear I can hear various European cryptids and monsters just doing their thing, especially as you get into the heavier subgenres. Blackened Deathcore is a good example. Again, Thal would be a good example. When I first tried to get the vocalist of Humanity's Last Breath through, mind you, phone note conversation, because it was so loud when I went to Chaos and Carnage 2024 last year and saw them open for bands like Cattle Decapitation, Rivers of Nile, I described to their singer that Humanity's Last Breath truly sounded like drunk frost giants stumbling through the mountains of Norway, whether it be with the gravity of the heaviness or just how foreign it sounded. I can hear it. I can hear the difference in between from US local and European local metal, and it's always a fascinating thing to hear. But of course, I will admit, that is what the, different languages and incorporating different languages into the music truly does help it stand out for me, because whether it's blatant, whether it makes it more obvious or not, I think that every band from different countries around the world, Haine, which is French for hate, from the island of Malta being a really, really good example, while I happen to find them through the Reclaimers Facebook group, which is the fan base for Shadow of Intent. When I first listened to their stuff, I could hear the architecture. I could hear architecture, not only that, but buildings and even ruined architecture that predates the pyramids of Giza. I could hear that almost eldritch architecture. I'm trying to find a different word, but I can't. There's not really another word for it. Infrastructure, I guess. Building infrastructure, which would then be the definition for architecture. So I can definitely hear these different parts of the world poking through the music, but it definitely helps me when I can be like, okay, I don't know the language, but that's definitely Dutch. So this is a Dutch band, and therefore it is a band from the Netherlands. However, for example, if I had been introduced more to the hardcore scene of the Netherlands, and therefore Dutch hardcore, I would be able to decipher truly XII Thorns as the first Ignite the Church band, or maybe one of the first, right? I'm sure there are plenty of others. If not, boom. Like I said, and like we've been prefacing this whole session, you guys, if you are the first, then that's going to be really important for you guys. When you recognize then a country, or are told through people who live there of certain genres that are prolific to a country, that also helps me decipher. And let's be real, that's also what helps with marketing. Like, yo, I hosted an Ignite the Church band from this country that I've already interviewed one of their biggest bands for. Boom. Like, people are like, whoa, the Lorna Shore of fucking, like, the Netherlands? It's like, no. Not really, but kinda. Like, you know, jump in, Lorna Shore of Netherlands, boom. We got 12 Thorns. So that would be the answer. That would be my answer to that question. And there was a lot of layers to that, but I try to be as descriptive as possible, and that's the reason why the Anatomy Crosscast, more often than not, I think is validated in its extension to possibly 4.5 hour conversations. But yes, that would be my answer is, yes, I can definitely hear the influence of the European part of the world in the music, but it definitely helps that there's Dutch lyrics, and that also definitely helps me gravitate towards the music more.
Excellent.
Great.
So, in then response to you guys's, you know, basically 100% positive critique, your appreciation of the show, the last question that I have for you guys today is, what bands would you guys want to see on the Anatomy Crosscast, whether local to the Netherlands, that you think would be really groundbreaking, maybe some hardcore bands from the Netherlands that you like, or maybe some bands from other countries? Who would you recommend to be on the show and why?
I can mention a few that I think are making its way in the Netherlands. For sure, calling out Deep Root. I think inspiring band, really amazing music. Braces. I would maybe say something regional or local, right? That we can maybe add to this. Maybe Louis. I'm not sure if you have any other suggestions.
Yeah, maybe I think a band what is really ambitious for a few years, and they helped us out with the festival 2 weeks ago, is the band called Slaughter the Giant. Check them out. Really ambitious. They're cool guys. They gave us a lot of opportunities, and I hope we will play with them more in the future. So check them out. Slaughter the Giant.
Okay.
Yeah, without making this like a shout out to bands we're friends with.
You're allowed
Yeah,
to
of
do
course
that.
we'll say Deep Root. Okay, you got a minute. No, like bands, especially in the Netherlands, like Reformist, Canyon Literature, A Night Under Maria's Altar, all great bands. Should definitely check them out. But I think, did you have Mental Cruelty on the show already?
No, we've been trying to get them on forever, and we were going to get Null on back in 2021 during... No, that's not true. We were going to get Null on for the Zwilex cycle, but it just didn't end up working out. So we're hoping to get them on, especially with their more, you know, open embrace of what is being marketed right now as Viking Deathcore. Like, of course I want to fucking get a Viking Deathcore band on the show. Like, that's my shit.
Yeah.
I have yet to listen to the new songs.
So that would be a band that I would be very interested in. But yeah, thinking about local bands right now here. Out of the Blue is one of those bands. Should check them out. Yeah.
Okay.
Many.
Yeah.
Too
Yeah, I think
probably.
many bands. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many bands. Yeah.
Well, if you guys could do me a favor then, and for the bands that you happen to not mention and recommend to the Anatomy Crosscast in these, you know, last 5 minutes, just go ahead and spam the Anatomy Crosscast DM with links to all of these bands, because half the time after session, that doesn't really happen. Even when I'm like, hey, send me a link for the band, it sometimes doesn't occur. More often than not, I'll be transparent. So the more that I am reminded, and the more that is like boom, 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 and I get notifications, I'm like, who the fuck is messaging me this many times? Oh yeah, that's right, 12 Thorns, okay. And I scroll through that. Well, in my opinion, that is the best chance to network with Netherlands or Dutch, right? Dutch local acts, Dutch metal bands. And therefore it opens the door for potentially an infinite amount of opportunities, really, an infinite amount of conversations. And in my opinion, as of this session, I do believe 108 crosscasts total. I believe that the more bands we host, the more bands that when people look into that catalog, or maybe even look to the playlists over on YouTube, where I have TAC in España for Spain, or UK in Europe, whatever. We're really trying to make sure that our catalog is almost overwhelming, so that even if you don't know a certain band, you can go to the playlists on YouTube and you can be like, okay, so what are some Spanish bands they've hosted? What are some bands from the Philippines or Southeast Asia that they've hosted? And hopefully in that regard, in the near future, there will be entire fucking catalogs worth of bands from certain regions around the world. And not only that, but let's be real, networking, right? We want to be as interconnected as possible with as many bands from as many countries around the world as possible, so that way, one day, in ambition and hope of possibly getting a contract with Discovery or Travel Channel, at the very least, we can fly to these countries, whether me alone or me and my co-hosts. We can travel to these countries, maybe attend music festivals, maybe have physical booths where we are interviewing a brand new band local to that region live, and people are like, huh, who's that? Like, I've seen that logo before, I swear. Didn't they host 12 Thorns and Distant? Yeah, they did. Whoa, like, I want to be a part of that too. And if, simply said, if we can turn this into a business, which I will talk to you guys briefly about that after we conclude session, because I do not want to provide any pressure in session. I just find that unprofessional. But one thing that we're hoping to do is turn this into a full-time job with the overwhelming amount of sessions for all of us, for me and my two co-hosts currently. That's one thing we really want to do, is provide so many sessions that, quote, there's no reason for you to at least check out one of these sessions. We interview bands, like, the main goal from the beginning is to interview at least one band from every country. So it's like, if we have at least a dozen bands from every country that we've interviewed, the possibilities are endless as far as international, global travel in the name of talking with these people and being as intimate as possible. But I digress. That's more or less a channel trailer thing, which we still have yet to do. That's something that's coming, people. But yeah, if you guys had anything else to say, any shout-outs you wanted to provide, we can do that. Otherwise, I think we're good for the day.
Yeah,
Excellent. I have no further shout-outs. I do have a limitation of time, unfortunately, so I do need to start going. But I again want to thank you so much, Sean, for the opportunity, right? And the great conversation. Eric mentioned as well. You made me think about a lot of stuff here. On what is the impact of that? But really good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've got one more question. Don't know if Eric or Roul, because of time constraint, are willing to listen to it. But you asked us for feedback for your show, and you give us feedback.
Yeah. I do have to drop off, so don't see that as anything else. You're good. I have an appointment that I need to make. But thank you so much, Sean. You can continue, but I need to then step out now.
Have a good day, Roul. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I don't want to drop off as well, but I'm really into time constraints. So if we can limit it to a maximum of 5 minutes, then I will. Then I can join you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm really curious on your good question, Louis. Actually, I'm curious to your answer, Sean.
Right, fair enough. So I do apologize. You had like feedback, or you wanted my feedback on the band, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said before, a lot of Ignite the Church bands in the community, I think, aren't nearly embracing behemoth-level visual stage presence as they should be, in my opinion. A lot of them focus on the musical ferocity, right? So, I mean, one simple thing I could always recommend, if it comes from an authentic place, is being that you guys are an Ignite the Church band from the Netherlands in the near future, having as much lyrical depth as possible, even Silent Planet level depth, where you have to do research projects. Like that's just me. I'm a big lyric guy, and when a band can make references to philosophers, books, points in history that are then relevant to a certain theme, which is hard. Don't get me wrong, it's difficult. I always gravitate towards those bands more, and they become even my favorite bands. So I think one thing that I would recommend to any Ignite the Church band is that the more occultic that you look, not that you act upon, like some mayhem shit, burning down churches, unfortunately even getting some people killed out of prejudice. That's not what I'm talking about. But really building a visual appearance for yourself, getting all covered in like oil and dirt and shit, and really getting into the more unholy aspects of what your band is supposed to represent. If it comes from an authentic place, I think that's the only thing I would recommend and want to see more of in the scene.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
In that case,
music-wise, I guess you listen to the tracks.
well, I haven't listened to the tracks just yet, but even just from the title track, like I definitely was getting those vibes. It definitely sounded like Ignite the Church material. So I'm like, yeah, of course. Like if it fits the brand and if it's authentic to you guys and if it's not too strenuous, of course, you guys want to balance out professionalism, quality, and, keeping at a realistic level for yourselves marketing-wise. Otherwise, like I want to see more corpse paint. I want to see more people like being comfortable in just presenting themselves as unholy, I guess, when it comes to Ignite the Church bands. So.
Okay.
All right. Interesting.
Yes, sir. Well, I do believe then that as per, my time as well as you guys' time, that will conclude the Anatomy Crosscast. I try not to number these sessions because I'll try to get this one out as soon as possible. And because we featured the title track at the beginning of this episode, that will be more than enough, I think, for an intro, or like the intro for the show, if you will. So thank you, gentlemen, for your participation. I look forward to getting you back on for your full length and hopefully hosting the remaining members of the band, telling their stories, maybe even doing an album listening session premiere. That's something that we're definitely aiming for with every band that we host, whether they're independent or on a bigger record label. And that is simply because if we can get record labels to approve of doing early album listening sessions that then premiere the day of future full length, that I think shows the world, not even just the Netherlands or the US, but it shows the world that the Anatomy Crosscast, even though oftentimes it's been quiet recently, I think it shows that we are interconnected and there's a lot of trust with every single band we host. So hopefully we can make that happen. But otherwise, yeah, I think we're good to go for today. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
We wish you all the best, and big thank from our hand, and keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Later, guys.
And have some good hours of sleep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Have a good day, guys.